Welcome everyone to this 35 minutes long session where we will present the results from work package 7 in Strength2Food, which has been about evaluating sustainability in so-called short food supply chains. 35 minutes is of course little time to present the content of so many years of work. This session can only give a taste, but I recommend everyone to take a look at the publications for more insights. My name is Gunnar Wittersjø, and I'm a senior researcher at the Consumption Research Norway and has been the leader of this work package. I will give the first presentation of the qualitative evaluation of short food supply chains carried out within the project. Next, the co-lead of the VP, represented by Professor Edvard Majewski and Agata Malak-Rawlikowska from Warsaw University, will take us through the quantitative assessment and also give some recommendations based on the findings from the research. Finally, we will get presentations from Barbara Tocco from Newcastle University and Davide Menozzi from the University of Parma of two interesting new and alternative types of short food supply chains investigated within the project. The audience is free to post questions during the session that we will collect for a final round of questions and answers with the 5 presenters afterwards. And there is a question and answer button on your left hand side, if I understand right, on your screen. So please post your questions there and we will collect them afterwards. Thank you. As you can see from the table at the right hand side, in all 8 partners participated in the work package, which consisted of 2 tasks: a qualitative assessment of motivations, practices and organizational development of short food supply chains, and also a quantitative assessment of economic, environmental and social sustainability. The aim of the qualitative study was to understand the development of different types of short food supply chains with a view to the economic, social and environmental dimensions of sustainability. The research was based on a broad definition of short food supply chain, much in accordance with the EU definition: a supply chain involving a limited number of economic operators and close geographical and social relations between producers, processors and consumers. We carried out a fieldwork in 12 locations selected for the research. It contained customer surveys and in-depth interviews with participants within each of the cases. The selection of cases was based on an exploratory approach, where we aimed at variation among the cases on several aspects such as history, proximity, and types of products. This table gives a brief overview of the selected cases, and as you can see, it varies both along the historic dimension, types of product, and it is a mix in ways of organization: traditional town and local markets, organic markets, cooperatives, and box schemes, for instance. And here are some some pictures from some of the markets and outlets that we were studying. The analysis of this broad variety of cases was inspired by a conventional theoretical approach that led to a categorization of the 12 cases into 3 ideal types of short food supply chains that we named traditional, market or niche, and alternative. It is difficult to place all cases in one specific type, and it was a great overlap between them, as the figure is meant to illustrate. If we compare the different short food supply chains along the 3 dimensions, we can see that, for instance, the traditional types, such as town and local markets, positively contribute to social sustainability, such as, for instance, maintenance of local identity, community building, as well as mutual trust between consumers and producers. If we look at the alternative short food supply chains, such as consumers and producers cooperatives and box schemes, for instance, or the market or niche types, such as new city markets or local food outlets, Offering food specialties, they to a greater extent functioned as reconnection of production and consumption along the economic dimension, and the traditional markets served as important channels for food provisioning for local consumers. However, they were facing a stronger competition from other food retail compared to other types of short food supply chains. For instance, within the alternative initiatives such as consumer producer cooperatives, there were a stronger focus on, for instance, supporting local producers and to pay a fair price for their products. Finally, there was a difference between the customer base regarding the environmental dimension. Environmental considerations was less emphasized in the traditional market, supporting sustainable or organic production and reducing waste and packaging was more important motivations for customers in the alternative markets. However, these customers were little aware of their potential carbon footprint impact of own food transportation. And this issue will be further discussed by Edvard and Agatha, presenting the results of the quantitative assessment of short food supply chains. And then I gave the screen to Edvard and Agatha. Thank you.
As you already know, our responsibility was to make quantitative assessments. There were 7 partners from 7 countries involved, including Vietnam. I would like to mention here that we are aware that Vietnam is located not in Europe, but far away from Europe, just to keep in order to keep the slides small and simple. We put indicators for Vietnam in the bottom corner of this map. At this point, let me express my greatest thanks to all who contributed to the realization of the task. There is a map I was telling about, indicating also Vietnam. The approach, the objective, first of all, was to provide quantitative assessment of economic, environmental, and social sustainability of short food supply chains. We've done it through a comparison of short and long chains in 7 countries, as I said. Altogether, we received data from 208 farms, and altogether 486 chains were represented. For comparisons, we identified the number of short and long chains, and we estimated the number of indicators, price premium and chain value added in economic, social, mainly bargaining power, chain evaluation, which will be presented today, and some environmental indicators, eco-efficiency indicators, estimated with the use of the LCA methodology. So, key results regarding sales and number of farmers. As you can see, the more than 65% of producers from the sample was selling 30% of produce, of total amount of produce, to short chains. Less than 30% of producers was selling more than 50% to long chains. So the quantity sold to long chains was much greater. There were part of the production was sold to processing, which was not included in our analysis. There is just to complete the picture and the total production from sampled farms. This allows us to conclude that we may observe a sort of hybridity, which means that in this case, individual farmers participate in a number of supply chains between 1 and maximum was 5. What is worth to mention also that the same product was often sold to different both short and long chains. So farmers tend to diversify the distribution Concerning economic sustainability, there are two indicators presented here. Farmers selling to short chains were receiving higher prices. That is price premium compared to average prices in the region is much higher. To some extent, this because greater share of certified products was sold to short chains. Also, chain value added when cost of selling produce was deducted was much better in the case of short food supply chains. So we may conclude next please, that participation in short food supply chains is no doubt economically beneficial for producers. Okay, concerning social sustainability, we estimated a number of indicators. There are four presented here: bargaining power, general evaluation of the chain, gender equality, and relation of labor input to production. Short chains require more labor. Women work slightly more, mainly in selling products. Bargaining power was assessed much higher, slightly higher in the case of short chains. What was surprising to us was that in general evaluation of the chains, short and long chains is about the same. This mainly because if you take a look at the characteristics of both short and long chains on the scale of importance for farmers, that is in the right hand side of the slide, there are different characteristics which are more important for farmers and as provided by short chains, like good prices, like regularly received payments. Many transactions are in cash. And many farmers just like being involved in selling, processing, contacts with consumers, what also showed the qualitative assessments. On the other hand, long chains allow to sell large quantities. For instance, allow for long-term contracts which are preferred by farmers. So, concluding, there are some social advantages of the short food supply chains: better bargaining power of farmers, of producers, greater level of trust in relations in the chain, better prices, and slightly better gender. For assessing environmental sustainability, we applied LCA methodology, estimating a few eco-efficiency indicators, starting with the global warming potential presented by the emission of the CO2. In the case of all indicators, long chains were performing better. This mainly because of large quantities sold to chains delivered in individual deliveries, even though distances to which produce were transported were much greater than in the case of short chains. This also proved by, as the show on the next slide, please. So conclusion from this is less environmentally sustainable, And the final slide from me shows the share of consumers in generating global warming potential. But let me start with this red line, blue line on the diagram, which indicates the average emission of CO2 per kilogram of produce in a group of short chains and long chains. So, as I said earlier, long chains perform better. What is important, consumers may contribute quite a lot to the CO2 emission, especially in some chains where distances traveled are long, like pick your own or on-farm sales to consumers, and quantities transported are relatively small. What is especially interesting to us is that internet sites generate the least emission. This because usually transport by couriers, even to long distances, are in large quantities. So that's enough for me, and Agata will conclude with our recommendations.
Thank you. Yes, basing on our finding and results, we formulated general recommendations. We are coming from based on the qualitative and quantitative analysis, and we divided them into practitioners' recommendations and recommendations for public authorities and policy. So in terms of, in the area of economic pillar, we recommend for producers and practitioners to strengthen every form of cooperation, horizontal or vertical, in order to save costs and exchange knowledge between different parties of the chain. Farmers should also and producers should also cooperate on, for example, collective deliveries and other kind of different and innovative forms of sales, like digital platforms using social media and other innovative forms, encouraging consumers to join these sales. And regarding public authorities' recommendations, we recommend to support short food supply chain members in order to improve this collaborative movement, collaborative actions by providing first support to these activities, but also to encourage producers to innovate within these short food supply chains via some grant scheme of kind of financial support to buy equipment or some infrastructure which is needed to develop short chain infrastructure. In the area of social pillar, recommendations are quite similar to economic, because we also encourage our practitioners to cooperate and to build the social and communication with customers, more direct contacts, and based on some cooperative, close cooperation with consumers, organizing events which are encouraging farmers and customers being together face to face. And we also encourage to recommend to exploit multiple ways of communication, also via social media. Using social media appear to be quite efficient also in terms of short chains, especially in the coronavirus situation and pandemic. In order, within the area for recommendations of public authorities, we again recommend to develop support for collaboration between different chain actors, and also giving kind of financial aids for promotion of regional food products, and also for smaller entities like farms or group of farmers who doesn't have money to promote themselves and getting visible on the market. And also, we recommend to support educational initiatives and campaigns which encourage both producers and consumers to join and use short food supply chain for their sales and purchases. Yes, and within this, the most sensitive environmental pillar for which appear to be not very sustainable in case of shortage, we recommend, first of all, to optimize transport efforts through coordinated logistics or cooperation between producers when transporting the products. And for example, for better using the capacity of means of transportation in the short chains. Of course, we recommend also recyclable packing for food. We also recommend to promote more sustainable ways of production of food, and including also organic production. And what is important, especially to what Edward said, the consumer awareness about the environmental impact of the, for example, travels by car for a long distance alone to buy 2 kilos of cheese, is very important to emphasize and build this consumer awareness among people. And recommendations for policy, we suggest to provide incentives for sustainable transportation, measures to improve the environmental performance, for example, for food storage and processing. And we also recommend to provide a kind of policy support for regional local authorities to build kind of places where the short food supply chains can occur, like public markets, green spaces where the producers can meet consumers directly and sell their products. And there's a lot of a large area where the improvements can be made in knowledge exchange and know-how and sharing best practices in the area, especially of environmental impact. So thank you very much. These were all main recommendations from our study. More you can find in our reports when we present our results. And publications also. We had a few already publications, journal publications published. So we encourage you to see our results, qualitative, quantitative, and also our leaflet presenting the main recommendations from our study. Thank you very much.
I give the screen to Barbara.
So we can start. So good morning, and thank you again for the opportunity to present one of the UK case studies. My name is Barbara Tocco. I'm Senior Research Associate at Newcastle University and Project Manager of Strength2Food. So today I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Krill Fish Club, which is a fish box scheme located in the harbour village of Humble on the North Sea coast of Northumberland in northeast England. So this is a scheme that operates in a very similar pattern to various fruit and veggies box schemes, in the sense that we have subscribers who can choose the size and frequency of their individual box. And the content of each box is, however, a surprise, as it largely depends on seasonal and weather availability. Members of the scheme can order their box online and collect it from one of the various local distribution points on a set day. It's relatively recent schemes, as it was introduced in 2016, with the aim of really promoting fresh, local, sustainable and seasonal seafood, supporting the local fishing community, and celebrating the regional food cultural heritage. So really the idea is to reduce reliance on imported and overfished stocks. And we thought that it was a really interesting case study because it really strives to expand consumer plate, trying to improve public awareness on the wide variety of locally abundant species that are caught and landed on the Northeast, and which are less commonly consumed, and therefore in turn alleviate some of the strains that are caused by overfishing, so reducing the demand for mainstream seafood. So from our qualitative and quantitative evidence, we were able to confirm various positive welfare benefits from various sustainability perspectives, so from economic, social, and environmental perspective. So we found economic contributions in terms of price premiums, higher return for fishers, added value to the local fishing industry, various social benefits, most of all social capital, trust and fairer power relations in the chain, strengthened cooperation via local networks. But also one of the main features is really this consumer empowerment. Consumers were able to acquire skills and confidence. And this is one thing that the subscribers really praised on how they started to experiment with new recipes, different cooking methods and species, and also how they became more aware towards what is local, what is seasonal, and what is more sustainable from both fishing and consumption point of view. So from an environmental point of view, is really about the greater awareness and the potential to contribute to a better management of natural resources and marine biodiversity. And so from a territorial perspective, is really about the cultural identity. So how to preserve culinary heritage and product quality. We found, of course, various critical factors from both supply and demand side. I think a major limitations here that concerns many short food supply chains is on how can we meet consumer demand in terms of convenience and price. And we find that consumer trust and perceptions are really key drivers to the success of various initiatives. So again, what does this tell us? This tells us that there are various market opportunities. We complemented this case study with action research in the research, trying to identify the strategies and the opportunities to stimulate short food supply chains for locally landed seafood. How can we unlock their potential, and how can we address some of the existing challenges? So just to promote a little bit some of our innovative pilot actions on locally landed seafood, trying to create quality food markets and short food supply chains. So you'll find here a link to our promotional videos. And later on during the expo session, you'll find various demonstration pilot actions that we conducted in the framework of Strength2Food. So again, thank you very much for your time. And I will pass now the word to Davide.
Thank you very much, Barbara. So, good morning, everyone. And in this brief presentation, I will share with you some of the insights we have collected in Parma, in particular in a case study about solidarity purchasing groups. What is a solidarity purchasing group? Is a group of consumers actually purchasing collectively and directly food products from farmers and small-scale producers. And in particular, these informal groups are sharing ethical principles, so they are moved from strong ideological motivations as well. In Parma, we have a network of these solidarity purchasing groups, accounting for about 40 of them. Each one has on average 20, 30 families, even if we have quite a heterogeneity among these groups, even larger groups with 60 families, for instance. In total, more than 1,000 consumers are involved in these short food supply chains. And this network also is managing a farmers market now in Parma city center, which is called Mercatiamo. And currently, they are also, since a few months ago, they are also managing a shop in downtown Parma downtown. In this picture, you can see the farmers market on the top left-hand side, and on the right bottom side, you can see a meeting of one of these groups, because of course they are also sharing some, let's say, conviviality among them. And so the social and the ethical aspects are very, let's say, shared among the members of these groups. What are the critical factors of this initiative? Trust, of course, is a key aspect, is a very key element for these groups. It's all about trust between producers and consumers. It has to do with the communication, sharing information about how the food products are produced, and how they are actually, let's say, delivered to the consumers. Trust is also really connected with defining the fair price for both sides, for both producers and consumers, even if most of the time they feel to be on the same side, also for this aspect. In general, the farmers that we have interviewed are really enthusiastic about this initiative, in particular as a tool for enhancing their economic values. So they are very involved in these kind of initiatives, in this process, and they benefit from these economic, let's say, values, but also because of the ideals that they are, let's say, sharing with the consumers in terms of independence, in terms of lower environmental impact, less food waste, and also social aspects. So communicating, educating consumers about, for instance, the seasonality of these food products. And trust is also, let's say, more formally engaged in these participatory guarantee systems that are, let's say, followed by the producers. Actually, all of the producers are producing according to organic standards, but few of them are really certified as organic. All of them are participating in this guarantee system, which is a kind of self-certification among producers, small-scale farmers. And so these, let's say, participatory guarantee systems are, rather than applying a really certification, they are, let's say, these activists are improving this transparent process, defining some common principles that farmers are following in their everyday activities. And they are, let's say, controlling each other in order to let's say, improve and increase the transparency and the mutual trust between producers and consumers. Finally, as well as the UK case, we have collected quantitative and qualitative data from this case study, and we found, of course, that from the economical side, the sustainability impacts are in particular connected with the definition of fair price for farmers and consumers, leading to higher value added from farmers. From the social side, we have a strong cooperation and coordination between producers and consumers, in particular in terms of logistics and delivering food products. The mutual trust and solidarity is a very key issue, as I said, and also the collaboration, as I said, increased also the transparency of this initiative, also leading to the let's say, also the management of these farmers market and local shops. And finally, from the environmental side, they are all following these producers and organic practices, even if they are not certified within this participatory guarantee system. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, David, and thank you to all the presenters. We have got actually one question from the audience, so I think we can take that question and then we finalize and wrap up the session. And this is questions that I think goes to Edward and Agatha, because it's a question about the environmental impact. If you buy your food from internet. Why is transport not included? I don't understand what's the difference between home delivery.
Okay, this is important to clarify. Rushing, I wasn't clear enough, probably. Transport is included, of course, in deliveries in the case of internet sales. But simply because of the system, the packages are collected by couriers, then completed into the collection hub and loaded into large trucks, let's say 20 ton or more, transported to the place of destination where they are again delivered to different consumers by couriers. So on average, if you calculate the all volumes transported, these eco-efficiency kilograms are small. In the case of home deliveries, farmers transport food to produce to individual consumers. So sometimes they travel quite large distances and quantities are small. That is why these indicators are different and usually high.
Thank you, Edward. It seems that we have no more questions from the audience, I will just thank you for listening to our session, and hope you have get some insights from the session. And as we have already underlined, please take a look at our publications. We have, as Agata mentioned, we have made a leaflet, a strategic guide for policymakers and practitioners that you can have a look on. And please go further on in the program of this conference. Thank you, all of you.